Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So this is all Ozzy's fault, and that's my story. I'm sticking to it. He told me to get some IRL stuff done. He's complaining about some stuff, so I had to do it, and yeah, that resulted in me being late when real life stuff happens. So it's all Ozzy's fault, and yeah, I'm sticking with that story. So what do we got today? We got some fun stuff today. We have 2 launches. One is going to be live. One happened very early this morning, America time. So we'll watch both of them back to back. So good deal, good deal. So the first launch we have coming up, this would be a pre-record. It happened at 4 a.m. Eastern time this morning. Progress 86 cargo ship launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, Russia. I love the Soyuz vehicles. Their Korvalov Cross is really cool, and it's always cool to see other space launches other than SpaceX, advancing space travel and spaceflight. So, this is a commercial resupply mission. This is a mission to the International Space Station to resupply various things for the crew up there. So I added some stuff, and we'll join NASA's coverage of it coming up here. But before I start, let's say hello to everybody. Gemini, hello, hello. Bad Dazzler, good morning, sir. Yeah, give a nice stroke to that like button. Jenny, Jason J. Yeah, it was way too early. He's real. I met him in real life. So I know for sure he's real. But yeah, this is all his fault. All his fault. If he wouldn't have talked me into doing IRL stuff, then I would have been here on time. So what's up, Comer? Hey, Steffu. So the second launch is going to be CreaSat 425. That is a SpaceX launch. That is launching from Vandenberg Air Force Base, where Shenny is perched live, trying to get a good view of it. So, that's exciting. It's always fun to see a rocket launch live, and she was able to make it. So, lots of cloud, but Ditto is so happy. Well, that's good. Ditto, you've been promising Ditto that he needed to go for his walk. So, it frequently is very cloudy at Vandenberg. I don't know why. I don't know why. It's just part of their thing. Part of their thing. No, I don't want you. Stop. So, trying to see what's on this bad boy. I know it's going to the ISS. I know it's full of equipment. Contents. Let's try that. From NASA. Okay, so we'll get going on the video, but it's uncrewed. It's uncrewed because it's just a cargo mission. It's launching from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. It is a Russian Soyuz rocket. Progress will deliver almost 3 tons of food fuel supplies to the space station. So they're not terribly specific, but much like just went up on the Crew Dragon, there'll probably be science experiments, different tools and different equipment for the space station itself, and a lot of food. So So this is a Soyuz 2.1A rocket. So it's a different configuration for the rocket.
You are seeing live views of Launch Pad 6, Site 31 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, where Soyuz 2.1A booster rocket stands ready to launch the unpiloted Progress 86 cargo spacecraft carrying 2.7 tons of food, fuel, and supplies for the expedition's 70 crew currently aboard the International Space Station. Good morning from Mission Control Houston and the International Space Station Flight Control Room, where we are bringing you live coverage of the launch of the Progress 86 spacecraft.
Yes.
We are just under 25 minutes away from launch, currently scheduled for 3:25 and 11 seconds a.m. Central Time, 4:25 and 11 seconds a.m. Eastern, which is 2:25 and 11 seconds p.m. in Baikonur. This launch will begin an 8-minute and 45-second journey to place Progress in its preliminary orbit.
Listen to NASA for a minute,
The
and I'll
Soyuz
jump in.
booster with the Progress spacecraft rolled out to the pad in Baikonur on Tuesday, November 28th in preparation for today's launch. The three-stage Soyuz 2.1A booster was fully fueled several hours ago, and the team in Baikonur are now in the final checks of the Soyuz systems as we close in on today's launch window.
Okay, thank you, NASA. I'll take it from here. I appreciate your input. We'll get back to them in just a minute. So, the payload on this bad boy, MS-25, will carry propellant 500 kilos, water for the Rodnik system 420 kilos, and 40 kilograms of nitrogen. So, it will deliver 1,535 kilograms of resource equipment and tools, experiment setups, clothing, and provisions for the crew. So in total, it will take 2,495 kilograms of cargo to the International Space Station. This autonomously docks. Again, it is not crewed. It is all autonomous. So a little bit about this rocket. So Roscosmos Soyuz is a multi-use medium lift rocket. It was introduced in 1966. So about the same time that the United States was using the Apollo program, the Saturn V rockets. So it's an older rocket, but it's been incredibly reliable. It has been the workhorse of the Soviet space program. It's capable of launching civilian and military sats, as well as cargo, uncrewed missions, ISS. Over the decades, several variants of the Soyuz rocket have been developed. Soyuz 2.1A is the latest iteration that belongs to the Soyuz 2 family. So this is a three-stage engine or three-stage rocket. On the first stage, we have 4 RD-107A engines. And their total thrust is 840 kilonewtons or 188,720 pound-feet at sea level. And this one won't get to vacuum of space, but if it did, if they used them in space, they would have 229,299 pound-feet in the vacuum. Specific impulse is 263 seconds at sea level, 320 seconds at vacuum. That's how long they can burn, essentially. So the second stage has RD-108A engines, 178,140 pound-feet at sea level, and 200,240 pound-feet in a vacuum. This one will reach the vacuum of space. And in the vacuum of space, it has a 321-second specific impulse. The third stage has one RD-110 engine, and it is a vacuum-optimized engine. It produces about 67 pound-feet in the vacuum of space for a specific impulse of 326 seconds. The fun part about this is the Korolev Cross and how SpaceX is really kind of pushed the envelope. The Russians have now started putting cameras on their launch vehicles, so we can see the Korolev Cross. We can see some telemetry, and you'll see the difference between a U.S. program, a U.S. private program, and the Russian space program back to back. They're the craft on top of it is very Soviet, very, very Soviet, very Soviet. It just screams Mother Russia. This is a craft that they use for both human and cargo. There's different configurations, of course, but this is the Soyuz craft, and this will be taking the payload up to the International Space Station. So very Soviet. This is not a reusable rocket. This is fully expendable. It is also not going to return the capsule. It will burn it up in the atmosphere. Making candles in space is our only hope. I hope so. I'd make a candle in space. That'd be pretty cool. What else do we have? So again, this is the Roscosmos, so the Russian government. Blah blah blah. It will rendezvous at the ISS at around 400 kilometers low Earth orbit at a 51.65 degree inclination. What's up, Forbidden? There's no recovery of any stages. Like I said, they're fully expendable. The fairings are not recoverable. The first stage is not recoverable. The second stage is not recoverable, nor is the third stage or the payload stage. So they do not recover any of these Soyuz rockets or these or any of the boosters, fairings, anything like that. So this will be the 25th launch of the Progress MS spacecraft, 178th Progress launch. This will be the 8th Soyuz that launched this year, and the 73rd Soyuz 2.1A ever launched. Combined, this will be the 193rd orbital attempt in 2023. So we're close to 200, and 80% of those are SpaceX. But there are other countries.
A minute later, you'll see the launch shroud jettison. And then at about 4 minutes and 37 seconds.
Oops, don't steal my thunder, NASA. That's what I was just about to do. I just wanted to check in and see if they're saying anything terribly interesting. It's about T-minus 15 seconds. Like they said, it is already fully fueled. Everything is on board. It is ready to go right now. They're just waiting for the launch window. So that's about... I don't like how we don't have to count down. It's about 16, 17 minutes away. Well, that's happening. That's happening when, what's his name? Tom Cruise is going up for a movie, shoot a movie, I think next year. It doesn't return anything, or do they load it up with refuge for the capsule return? It doesn't return anything at all. Anything at all. It will burn up. It will burn up. So they don't bring anything back with them, unlike the Dragon capsule. It's just not built for that. It's built to burn up. So T-minus 15 seconds, which is before the launch. We have engine start sequence. And again, we don't get the same level of detail that we would get with the SpaceX launch. You'll see we won't get the same telemetry data, that kind of stuff. That is truly unique to SpaceX. And then when we hit all zeros, of course, we have liftoff at T plus 1 minute and 58 seconds. We get that first stage separation. So we'll get that those boosters on the side, that Korolev cross. That's where the boosters kind of flip and make a cross in space, or in the upper atmosphere, technically. And then the fairing is all done with its job at 3 minutes and 3 seconds plus. So we'll see that fairing pop off, exposing the spacecraft to the vacuum of space. T plus 4 minutes and 47 seconds, we'll get second stage separation. So that will be all burned up and ready to come back to Earth to burn up. 4 minutes and 57 seconds, we get tail section separation. T plus 8 minutes and 45 seconds, we get third stage main engine cutoff, because then it will be in its orbital insertion, and they will just need it for maneuvering. And then T plus 8 minutes and 49 seconds, the Progress spacecraft will jettison the rest of the rocket and return on its journey to the International Space Station. So this is an interesting rocket. Again, it is fully expendable. It is a very old rocket. Yeah, it's very old. Very, very old. Blah blah blah. I'm trying to see. These run on liquid kerosene and liquid oxygen. So Kerolox, pretty common fuel. Here's actually a Korvalev cross. This is what I'm talking about. This is so cool to see. Like the way that the boosters sit in, they kind of pop them up and then they flip. They do this flip all the way down. That's really pretty to see. So we'll go back to NASA and see if they're saying anything intelligent. Probably not. Nope, they're not saying anything at all. Baikonur is in Kazakhstan, like I said, but it's still used by the Russians as their primary launch facility. It's usually where they launch crew and cargo. We could pull up a map and look at where Baikonur is. I don't know why Russia. I assume the infrastructure is already there and they've never cared to move it, but I don't know why they've never moved it back to Russia. I guess because it's never been a problem. God, how do I spell Kazakhstan? I've already done it once. There you go. Baikonur Cosmodrome. I'll just copy this. Damn it. I'm going to have to use Google Maps. Baikonur Cosmodrome. Kazakhstan. There we go. That's what we're looking for. I placed a pin at Deez's house too, just because I know he's watching from work. So, so this is the Baikonur Cosmodrome, right in the middle of Kazakhstan. This is Mother Russia. So this Baikonur Cosmodrome, it is deep in the heart of Kazakhstan. It actually overflies a lot, but I guess they usually go northeast, north northeast. Yeah, I'm on the other side of the world, so I just had to check. Which doesn't overfly really any population, and that's probably how they get away with it. It's also Russia. Let's not forget. So that could contribute in some way. Interesting part is you may have heard that from NASA. They still physically insert a key. They still have physical range callouts. They still physically insert a key, turn the key. So, those scaffolds are cranes at the bottom. I'll have to look. I don't think that's accurate. I think he's much smaller than that.
A live view
We'll skip
of
ahead. We're not
the
missing
rocket.
anything. So this is their launch pad, if that's what you're talking about. This is their launch pad behind the NASA sign here. Maybe they'll move it.
Spacecraft atop a Soyuz 2.1A booster at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan.
these on the outside. So this is their launch
The
pad.
Progress 86 spacecraft
Shut up, lady. This is
will be launching today.
this is their hold down arm. So this is what makes the rocket vertical and holds it up. These are lightning towers. So there's different communications that go into them as well. But those are lightning towers in case there is a lightning strike, because you have volatile explosives on a launch pad. Some of them for some time, so they try and remove the lightning aspect of it. So they're little lightning rods. NASA is in Russia. They do use Russia. They used to much more frequently. This is a Russian rocket with cooperation of the NASA space program. So they buy seats and buy cargo space on Russian rockets all the time. Like I said before, SpaceX, it was very frequently. They were doing it a lot. Since SpaceX and emergence of other companies, they've slowed down considerably with purchasing rockets, but as cooperation with the International Space Station, they do still purchase flights and cargo space on, as do the Russians. The Russians will also purchase space on American rockets. So currently, I believe Expedition 70 has 2 cosmonauts. I believe it's 2 Americans, and there are 1 JAXA, and let me look at it so I'm not telling you guys bullshit. Who is on the ISS now? I know there's a couple different expeditions, and they left some people from different ones on there. So I don't actually know who is up there currently. So it looks like we have 2 Americans, 2 Russians, and then we have 3 from other countries. 2 Americans, 2 Russians, 3 from other countries. Let's see. And one of them's actually American, but not really American. US to complete, blah, blah, blah. One of them's from Taiwan, Lindgren. That's a cosmonaut. So there's a diverse crew on the ISS currently. So on Expedition 68. That's a cosmonaut. That's right. There's an Italian on there too. So it appears that there's an Italian, someone from Taiwan, an American, a Japanese astronaut, 2 Russians, and 2 Americans. So 2 Russians, 2 Americans, 1 from Taiwan, 1 from Italy, and 1 from Japan. Is what it appears. Nobody asked if they'd send me. I'd go. But now we're just kind of waiting for that. You can't type today, can you? They threaten, but no, this is still so. One of the interesting things is the only country or the only private company that can actually raise the ISS is big. It loses orbital velocity and actually falls back to Earth. That's part of orbital mechanics. The only spacecraft in existence to be able to raise that orbit back to a stable, non-decaying orbit is the Russian space program. So we literally have a gun to our head. If we want to keep ISS in the sky, we have to use the Russian space program. So we can't get away from them. Yeah. Yep. Well, we can make exceptions. So yeah, the only way to keep it in the sky is if we send Soyuz up to raise the orbit. The Russians have in the very recent past threatened all kinds of things like letting their module decay. Their module is instrumental in allowing us uh, to enter the International Space Station. But I think until China puts up a viable replacement and they get some kind of interaction with China, they'll continue to play ball with the International Space Station. At least I hope, because it would be it'd be unfortunate for the ISS to come back to Earth. So stingy. So we're T minus 3 minutes and 12 seconds. We should be getting that key switch here pretty soon. It's very, again, I just explain it as Russian because I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's very industrial. It's very purpose driven. There's not a lot of flash. This is not like Kennedy where you see, all this kind of really pomp and circumstance. This is just in the middle of the tundra in Kazakhstan, and it's just kind of exists. So, um, yeah, it's interesting, very interesting. The liquid kerosene, like I said, can be preloaded. Liquid oxygen uh, can be uh, loaded up relatively early, but it is still a cryo liquid, so it still has to be loaded at a time close enough to the flight. However, it is cold as hell in Russia, um, so it's not the same temperature differential as we would see um, in Florida or Texas. So, remind me why it's not a nuclear rocket. Uh, could be. It could be. Um, most of so please continue to stream in Russian. I don't know enough Russian yet. I'm trying. I'm trying to learn Russian, but I just don't know enough yet to stream in Russian. Uh, Jason, to answer your question, it looks like one because it started off as one, just like our Mercury Redstone project in the United States started off as an intercontinental ballistic missile. So did Soyuz, and they adapted it for human flight. This is from 1966 is the development of the Soyuz rocket. So at the same time, we were starting to see the Apollo program, and prior to that, the Redstone program, Mercury program. Um, so it's not uncommon for them to look. This is like a blast from the past. This is a very old rocket, uh, obviously just built and newer technologies or newer processes, but the same rocket that was developed in the 60s. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. What's up, AP? So we're starting to see that strong back retract. Oh, I muted it.
In about 13 seconds, and this will initiate engine start sequence. We are 15 seconds away from launch.
T minus 15 seconds.
Second umbilical has retracted, and then engine sequence has started. Engines are coming up to full throttle.
Go Roscosmos. Go Soyuz.
And liftoff of the 86 Progress resupply vehicle for its 34 orbit journey to the International Space Station.
And that thing just jumps off the pad. Like there's a lot of power there.
Engines on the first stage are operating as expected. Booster systems are also operating as expected.
Beautiful rocket.
The structural parameters of the vehicle are normal. The vehicle continues to be stable.
There's a car alarm going off in the background there. Breaking the sound barrier. They don't care as much about Max Q as the Americans do. They just kind of
The
let it
vehicle continues
full
to be
throttle and
stable,
punch
and
through
we
it.
are about a minute away from first stage shutdown and separation. Roll, pitch, and yaw of the vehicle are normal. We are a minute and 20 seconds into the flight, and everything is proceeding as expected.
Yeah, there's no bells and whistles. It's just light the candle and let it go.
Engines of the first stage continue to operate as expected. We are standing by for first stage shutdown and separation. We have confirmation of first stage shutdown and separation. The vehicle is currently traveling 4,500 miles per hour and 29 miles in altitude, 29 miles downrange from the Cosmodrome. The vehicle continues to be stable and all structural parameters are normal.
Look at that. Look at that.
We are
What do you call
about
that?
20
Animation?
seconds away from launch shroud jettison. The engines in the second stage are operating as expected.
Russia does not reuse any of this rocket. The entire thing will burn up after it delivers its payload to the ISS. They do not use the first, second, or third stage or the Soyuz craft. It will all burn up. And there's fairing jettison, so Soyuz is exposed to the atmosphere of space.
We have confirmation that the launch shroud successfully jettisoned.
Continuing to
The
continue
second
to
stage
speed up.
engine continues to operate as expected.
What,
In
2,700
about 1 minute, we
meters
will
per
see second
second.
stage shutdown, followed shortly thereafter by second stage separation and third stage skirt jettison.
There we go. It's a cloudy day over Russia.
We are now 4 minutes into today's flight and everything continues to proceed as expected.
So quick to go to space. While they're in rush hour, you can barely move on Earth. Yes. Takes about, depending on the rocket, takes between 5 and 8 minutes to get to space. It's not that far. Not that far. So that roll is natural because it's an unbalanced spacecraft. So that little there's corrective measure to that roll. So and they use roll as steering for
We
for
have
specific
confirmation of
rockets.
second stage shutdown. The vehicle continues to be stable and is proceeding as expected.
So
We
there's that
have
skirt.
confirmation of second stage separation. We will see third stage skirt jettison shortly.
Oh, that's the second stage. That looked like the skirt. NASA knows. See, I told you the Earth's flat, Comer. You didn't believe me. What's the flat horizon?
We
So
are 5 minutes and 45 seconds into today's flight, and everything continues to proceed as expected, and the third stage engine is operating as expected. In just under 3 minutes, we will see third stage shutdown and orbital insertion, followed shortly thereafter by spacecraft separation.
first, Comer. No. Second, it's in part because of the lens, in part because you're only seeing a very small piece of it, and the Earth is very large, so the curvature is not necessarily seen
The
in such
vehicle
a short
continues to perform
distance.
as expected. It is traveling approximately 11,000 miles per hour at an altitude of 118 miles, and it is 527 miles downrange from the Cosmodrome.
There you go. NASA gets telemetry, we don't.
We are about 2 minutes away from third stage shutdown and orbital insertion, everything continuing to proceed as planned.
Yeah, they normally, because of the way that their spacecraft set up, they normally take it very, very gentle. There's again, we're talking about something that happened during the 60s, was developed during the 60s. They put a lot of power on this rocket. So it can, there's an excess amount of delta V, or excess amount of fuel, generally on the rockets. They could, and because of their lack of maneuverability, they have to go on a much more gentle arc than one could. So I hate phone calls.
We're about 7 minutes and 45 seconds into today's flight, and the structural parameters on the vehicle are normal and the vehicle is stable. We are just under a minute away from third stage shutdown and orbital insertion, followed by spacecraft separation. At the time of separation, flight control will be transferred to the team at the Russian Mission Control Center outside of Moscow. We have confirmation of third stage shutdown and orbital insertion.
There we go. Now it just needs to catch up to the International Space Station.
And we have confirmation of spacecraft separation. Progress is now in its preliminary orbit, traveling at approximately 17,500 miles per hour at a preliminary altitude of 125 statute miles.
So they automatically
The
put
solar
out
arrays and navigation
solar
antennas
arrays.
are now deployed, and we're standing by for a test of the external television camera.
Because there's not a ton of capacity on the vehicle for power storage, so they immediately deploy solar arrays. And I mean, looked like a good flight. So here's your pathways, and they're trying to catch up to the International Space Station. So now it's a game of chase. they're gonna try and run after it real quick, catch up to it, and then dock. I take it this is from their docking cam. There's no telemetry data at all there. Yeah, it's I actually don't know. I can look for you. I know it's considerably higher because you don't have the atmosphere. considerably higher. Plus, you have natural cooling, so you're not getting too
And we
hot.
are now seeing the black and white crosshair camera from the Progress 86 vehicle. This will be used during docking operations on Sunday. And the vehicle has now begun its 2-day 34 orbit rendezvous.
When you take in, it says when you take in
Liftoff of
from
the Soyuz rocket carrying the Progress 86 spacecraft occurred on time at 3:25 and 11 seconds a.m. Central, 4:25 and 11 seconds a.m. Eastern, which was 2:25 and 11 seconds p.m. in Baikonur from Launch Pad 6, Site 31 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. All three stages operated as expected during an 8-minute 45-second ride to place Progress in its preliminary orbit where it is now. The Progress spacecraft will now begin a 2-day 34 orbit chase to arrive at the International Space Station's Poisk module with docking scheduled for Sunday, December 3rd at 5:14 a.m. Central, 6:14 a.m. Eastern. You can join us for live coverage of Progress's automated rendezvous and dock.
All right, so we will leave them there. So quick research from NASA says about 30% yield, which I thought would be higher. I thought it would be considerably higher, but it was not. So we're gonna get right into KoreaSat 425 because we will get live coverage from SpaceX in about 1 minute. We'll listen to Korea tell us what it is. So this is South Korea's 425 sat. You haven't missed the live one yet. That was the Russian before. Now we're getting into the SpaceX 425 Korea
The
sat.
countdown for the launch of the South Korean military's first reconnaissance satellite will kick off on Friday morning in Vandenberg Space Force Base, California. That's early Saturday, Korea time. If successful, it'll be the first of 5 indigenously developed ones to be placed in orbit by 2025 with the aim of better monitoring North Korea's activities. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
South Korea is set to launch its first locally developed.
Okay, that's about all we needed of that. So if you're talking to me about should we be putting up spy satellites for other countries, I know. I am. I don't know that we should. I don't know that we should. But I mean, SpaceX is comfortable with it. The U.S. government's comfortable with it, so they're an ally for now. But this is the one we're about to see. So SpaceX is targeting Friday, December 1st at 10 at 19 Pacific time for launch of 425 Korea to low Earth orbit from Space Complex 4 East at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. Space Force, Air Force, same difference. There are 25 spacecraft on board this mission, including Korea's 425, Space BD's ISL-48, SITAEL's microHETSat, the orbit's ION SCV Daring Diego, York Space Systems Bane, and PlanetIQ's Gnome 4. Gnome 4. So this is a rideshare, essentially, with the headliner being Korea 425. So Korea 425 paid for the rocket. SpaceX had space to fill up and did the rest really cheap. This is a 17th flight for the first stage booster on this mission. Previously launched Crew 1, Crew 2, SXM-8, CRS-23, IXPE, Transporter 4, Transporter 5, Globestar FM-15, ISI Aero C3, and 7 Starlink missions. Like we talked about, the first, there's the further it gets with reliability. Sorry, SpaceX just came live. The further it gets with reliability, the more that will go up, and there'll be more paid missions. But SpaceX is using the second half of that for Starlink satellites. So same countdown that we normally have. So we have 38 minutes. SpaceX launch director verifies propellant load. These things have already happened. RP1, liquid oxygen, going at 35 minutes. Second stage begins at 16 minutes. T-minus 7 minutes, which is where we're coming up on. Falcon 9 begins engine chill. T-minus 1, final pre-launch checks. Pressure tank stabilization. And then we get to go for launch at T-minus 45 seconds. Engine controller commands ignition sequence start at T-minus 3 and liftoff at 0. Again, this one is live. This one's live. Potentially, it'd be nasty, but potentially, that's true. That's true. So this is our normal profile. We are going to land on land at LZ4 at Vandenburg. So that will be fun. And pretty close to the same mission profile that we're used to. Max Q is at T plus 1 minute and 12 seconds. MECO 219. Stage step at 222. And we start that second stage engine, boost back burn, blah, blah, blah. And we should land at 8 minutes and 22 seconds. On LZ4 on land at SLC4. So we have live from SpaceX, so let's join them.
At around T-minus 35 minutes. Now, starting from the top of the rocket, our 25 payloads today are safely enclosed inside of that 17-foot diameter payload fairing, which is the pointed structure on your screen. Made of carbon composite material, the fairing protects the satellites on their way to orbit. The fairing is then jettisoned approximately 3 minutes into flight. The fairing halves supporting today's
Engines are
mission
filling in for flight.
What's up, Obama?
are flight proven, with one half flying for its 5th time and the other for its 6th. We will be attempting to recover those again today.
So they're going to try and recover the first stage. They will. They're just modest. So what happened right there is engine chill. So the engines are expanding naturally and contracting when they get cold, like any other material does. If everything came out at once, then it would shock the engines and the engines could crack or there could be catastrophic failure. They start pumping the liquid oxygen through the engines to start cooling them down slowly so that they can normalize them for flight temperature for when they're about to go. Actually, the engines are rather cool by design because they have that very cold outer shell that's cooling them constantly through flight. So, if you could get close enough without the heat of the exhaust and the noise, the sound shaking everything, you could touch the engine and you wouldn't get burned. You would get probably frostbite, or it would be very cold. The outsides of them are very cold. So.
If we're successful in recovering the booster on screen, it will mark the 250th successful recovery of an orbital class rocket. And lastly, the large truss structure that you see there just to the right of Falcon 9 is the transporter erector, or TE for short. You may also hear the callouts on the net refer to that as the strong back. We use the TE both to roll the rocket out to the pad and raise it to its vertical launch position. The TE also routes fluids, power.
So when they roll out this rocket, it is horizontal. So it's laying on a truck horizontally. It is then lifted into launch position as a vertical launch. So
it will retract in order to clear the way for Falcon 9's ascent.
Oh yeah.
Those clamp arms are just at the base of the fairing, and we should start to see them open up in about 20 seconds.
So about right now, we'll see that strong back come back just a little bit, and then upon launch, it will retract the entire way. So
there you can see the clamp arms are opening in preparation for the initial strong back retract.
Pretty good size. It's a custom vehicle that SpaceX made.
Now that those clamp arms are fully opened, and you've got that great view of the TE pulling away from Falcon 9. Right now, the first stage is connected to a launch mount at the base of the TE, but the structure is hinged, which is what allows that retraction that we just saw. At T-minus ground hydraulic systems will pull the TE.
Just a reminder, this spacecraft, since I haven't done this in a while, it's 70 meters or 229.6 feet tall. So you would have to have probably a 250-foot truck.
The first stage and second stage should finish loading propellant about
Diameter is 3.7 meters, 12 feet.
The first stage will finish up at T-minus 3
Mass
minutes, and the second stage at T-minus 2.
is just over 1.2 million pounds. And it can take 50,265 pounds to lower its orbit. So it's called the Falcon 9 because it has 9 Merlin engines on the first stage. And we have LOX load complete. So this is... Okay, SpaceX, here's what you need for the people who are covering the rocket launches that aren't you. You need just mission control audio and video, but not commentary. Like, we want to provide our own commentary, brother. So anyways, this uses the same thing that Russian rocket uses, RP-1, which is rocket grade kerosene, and liquid oxygen. Falcon 9 generates about 1.7 million pounds of thrust. So, and then the second stage has one vacuum optimized Merlin engine with a specific impulse of 397 seconds and about 220,000 pound-feet of thrust. 7. It's relatively inexpensive, especially if you get on a rideshare. Like, a dedicated rocket would obviously be very expensive.
Stage 2, LOX load complete.
A rideshare would be...
There we hear it, that Stage 2 LOX load is complete. All 25 payloads continue to be healthy, and the Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on board the rocket.
There are certain services that actually do it. So, we have puffy stuff. Puffy stuff.
And as a reminder, at the request of some of our customers, we won't be showing any views of our payloads today. Live coverage will end after first stage landing and a successful shutdown of our MVAC engine's first burn.
So when there's a classified payload or a country payload that's sensitive, like a spy satellite, they will not show the payload at all.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
So we're in startup.
There's confirmation that F9 is in startup mode. The internal flight computers have taken over the countdown, and Stage 1 and Stage 2 have begun pressurizing for launch.
LD is go for launch.
And we are go for launch.
With that call out from our launch director, we know that we are go for launch. At just under T-minus 40 seconds, all systems of Falcon 9 are ready for liftoff, with our 25 rideshare payloads on board.
T-minus 30 seconds.
The launch. Could be. They're sending one back at Russia.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Go SpaceX. Go Falcon 9.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And go Korea 425. Go SpaceX.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Oh, it always sounds so beautiful. Did you see it, Shinny?
It is a beautiful day for launch, and Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Vandenberg Space Force Base with payloads for 6 of our rideshare customers on board: Korea, Space BD, SITAEL, D-Orbit, York Space Systems, and PlanetIQ. Now, during ascent, we tilt the engines. The technical term for this is gimbaling, and that turns the rocket horizontally in what we call a gravity turn. We're still going
And
up,
max
but now we
Q?
are also heading horizontally away from the launch pad.
Max Q.
There's the call out from Max Q. So moments ago, we throttled engines down in preparation
Power
for
and
Max
telemetry
Q.
nominal.
Good
Nominal
call-outs there.
call
The
out.
power and telemetry are nominal on board Falcon 9. Max Q is a critical moment during flight because the combined stresses caused by Falcon 9 accelerating through the atmosphere and the ambient static pressure are at their greatest. Now, the rocket typically needs to go around 17,500 miles per hour horizontally in order to avoid being pulled back down to Earth and reach orbit, which is why we perform that gravity turn. You can track our progress to orbit by keeping an eye on the Stage 1 telemetry in the bottom corner of your screen. Now we have 6 events coming up in quick succession.
So orbit is constantly falling back towards Earth and having the velocity to escape that fall. That's the easiest way to kind of explain it.
Engine cutoff, we'll shut down the 9 Merlin 1D engines, which is followed by stage separation.
Nominal trajectory.
Nominal trajectory on board Falcon 9.
Still nominal. There's
Once
a beautiful
separated from
view
the
of
second
Southern
stage, the booster will
California.
flip its orientation
Oh,
and
look, I see
begin heading
Shenny.
back to Earth with a short boost back burn, while simultaneously the second stage MVAC engine will ignite for the first time, followed quickly by fairing separation.
Go. Stage separation confirmed.
Confirmation of MECO and stage sep.
And
And we've
ignition.
got separation.
Good callouts that we've had
Stage 1
SES1
boost back startup.
and boost back burn startup.
Pretty much.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Oh, that sucks.
So we've heard those call outs for those 6 events that happened back to back and got great views of several of them. That was MECO, stage sep, S1 flip, SES1, boost back burn start, and fairing separation. We will be attempting to retrieve those fairing halves again today once they fall back to Earth using our recovery vessel, Go Beyond. Next up, we're listening to
Okay, so I'm gonna so one, they have a boat with these big ass nets on the back of it, and they actually drive around and attempt to literally catch these ones. So they attempt everything they can to actually catch them in these big nets in the ocean. So they get telemetry data, and try and determine where they're going to land. Now, the cool thing about this is we get to actually see the full landing. The stage going to space, cool, whatever. We've seen that before. We get a full look at the landing, and that's pretty cool, especially since we're landing on land today instead of on a drone ship. So.
Great views on your screen right now of stage 1 and those grid fins as the booster heads back to
Probably.
Earth.
Probably.
We relight those engines to slow down
There's
and
your
reduce
curve.
re-entry forces, which ultimately
There's your
helps
curve,
us
Comer.
recover and reuse the first stage. During the entry burn, Falcon 9 is decelerating by firing those Merlin engines, but we're still moving really fast. This causes the vehicle to fly through Merlin's exhaust gases, also called the rocket's plume. And this deposits a layer of soot on the vehicle's surface, which is why our flight-proven vehicles tend to look so toasty. That soot comes from the carbon-based fuel that Falcon 9 uses.
The hell is that? Must be the ring around the vacuum engine.
Now, as a quick reminder, at the request of some of our customers, we won't be showing any views of our payloads today. Live coverage will end after the first stage landing and successful shutdown of MVAC's first burn. Just about a minute and a half until we expect to hear the call out that entry burn has begun.
So now we're basically just waiting. Like I said, it's going to pick up speed. Then we'll see the boost back burn. It will slow down just a little bit. It will re-enter the atmosphere, and then we'll start to see. It will continue to pick up speed until it starts encountering atmosphere, and then it will start slowing down. So, yep. It uses those huge grid fins to turn and autonomously move. Those grid fins are massive because that's a mighty meat hand. It's so big, and this is one of the titanium grid fins. They're machined out of one entire piece of titanium. one single piece of titanium. That's a mighty hand. That's a mighty grid fin. So now we're just waiting for her to done our flip, coming back in. You can see California on the side of it there. So we're at least in the right ballpark. Shenny, if you're still out there, you might be able to hear the sonic booms. There should be 3 sonic booms, because those are high enough where you might actually hear them. So as we can see, it's lining up. We're about to get the entry burn. There's good entry burn. And again, we slow down just a little bit. And then there'll be that entry burn cutoff in about 3, 5, 10 seconds. That was a long burn. There we go. And now we see the speed picking back up again. As it encounters atmosphere, that will continue to bleed off and slow down. There's that point right there. Started hitting atmosphere, and now we're slowing down. Beautiful view from the coast there. You can see that burnt marshmallow coming down real quick. So the right side is the tracking camera. The left side is the onboard camera. And now we're transonic, so we're just past the speed of sound the other way in the slowdown direction. There's our landing burn. Wow, that's a cool camera. That's a cool tracking view. We should get landing leg deploy here in a moment. And touchdown. Damn, they make it look so cool. God, they make it look so cool. That was really cool. I enjoyed that footage of it. That one was really neat to be able to track it all the way down and see through the process. Because normally we just get the onboard camera. Due to several factors, it kind of cuts out pretty much every freaking time. And we miss a lot of it.
For those of you interested in learning more about today's payloads and deployments, please head over to our...
Yeah, we don't want to hear that. They do make it look so easy. And they do it every single time flawlessly. Why it says Korea 425 at the bottom? Because that would have been the flagship mission. So they paid for the rocket. That's why it says Korea 425 at the bottom. They paid for it, so they get their name on it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, so we saw 2 very different space programs, 2 very different philosophies, 2 very different rockets, the exact same fuel. So, one has been designed, sorry, I'm reading. Dan Spiker Dance sent me a meme that his daughter made. I feel like it's worth sharing. That's awesome, Dance. Appreciate it, brother. We've detected microwaves in space. So yeah, both use RP1. Very different philosophies. Very, very different. Very different time frames and very different technologies on the rockets. So, def not as set to chase the north one. Then wink, wink. Yes. This one came together pretty quickly too. honestly. So, so it came together pretty quickly. So I mean, I wouldn't put it past them chasing down the North Korea satellite at all. I'm not Biden. Well, I'm being created by a kid I can actually understand. Wait, are you not Obama? And now you're not Biden either? Holy shit. Not Obama's Trump. I'm calling it. Anyways, so like I said, two very different programs and very different developmental stages. Both hella reliable, both do it in their own way. And both a lot of fun to watch. So I thank you for joining me for the pre-record of the Russian sat that went up earlier. That we got to take a look at, and the live view of the SpaceX KoreaSat 425. KoreaSat 425 that we got to see live. So I want to thank everybody for joining me, and hope you guys have an awesome day. And I will catch you guys tonight at 8:30. Have a good one, everybody. Take care.